Egg yolk, what is going on with my people, aka the viewers of the tube? If you don't know where you are in the tuberverse, let me first introduce myself as Tyler, and this is a crypto channel that, like Geralt the Witcher, loves to play with his kitty. Toss a coin to your Chico, oh valley of plenty, oh. It's time for Chico Crypto. Well, it's a crazy world we live in right now. We are still in the middle of whatever you want to call it, a global panic, a global reset, with the world's #1 power in shambles. Riots are breaking out across America. People are losing their jobs left and right, yet that is okay because assets are looking great. Summer euphoria is setting in strong and things are not making sense one bit fundamentally, like that miner purge. Pulling out the Bitcoin hash rate chart, it's obvious to see a big drop since the halving. Hash rate went from over 122 million terahashes to just over 90 million, a drop of 26%. And then the difficulty of the network had a drop last adjustment. And then looking at projections, they expect another difficulty drop next adjustment between June 4th and 5th. And the price is going up, Bitcoin getting ready to touch 9.5K as of yesterday and break through that resistance? Yeah, I'm baffled. And that is why I try to never trade on the short-term scale, although I'm keeping my short open. Why? Because I believe eventually things have to make sense, and others are seeing the same thing as me. Preston Seich, aka PP, put out a tweet thread, and it said this: update on miner capitulation. So this has been one of the most abnormal price moves I've seen, considering the difficulty pressure the miners have been experiencing since the halving. In my honest opinion, this is very bullish for the incoming price action once its epoch is complete. In the past 24 hours, it appears the miners have been able to keep pace with the 10-minute block reward flow. This is the first time we've seen that happen in the current epoch. If that continues to persist, then I think the potential for a final price drop opportunity is diminished. Could it still happen? Of course, but as far as waiting around for it, probably not the best idea. So Preston knows there is a potential for one more big drop, but with what he's seeing in the current block times and holding hash rates, it may not happen. But there is the possibility for reality to set in. And I'm a realist, so I'm keeping my short open. Good idea? I have no idea, I'm no leverage trader. But one thing Chico does know how to do is search and research and find the hidden gems of the altcoin space. And I told you guys I was going to be bringing a research video regarding one I recently found called Energy Web Chain and their token EWT. So let's do it. So in the first video I made, I did the research which made some connections to Tesla, energy markets, their auto bidder software, and the Australian energy market operator AMO. Today we are going to do some history of EWF because this project has been in the works for some time and it connects to some of the biggest players in the space. So if you didn't know, Ethereum was proposed in late 2013 by somebody everybody should know, Vitalik Buterin. Here he is creating it back in the day. Just kidding, but that is little Vitalik at a computer back in the day. And here is his actual proposal in 2013. Now, to get Ethereum built and the smart contract vision in place, Vitalik needed a team. So that same year, late 2013, 4 people were brought on: Anthony DeLorio, Mihai Alisi, Amir Chetrich, and that delay boy Charles Hoskinson. Those were the OG 5 according to records, but in early 2014, more were brought on, including Gavin Wood, Joseph Lubin, and Jeffrey Wilkie. Lubin was the investor and Wood and Wilkie were the devs. Wilkie was brought on to develop Ethereum and Go, creating the Geth client, while Gavin Wood created the smart contract language Solidity, which, as we know, is still to this day the dominant language power in the network. And he also wrote the yellow paper, specifying the Ethereum virtual machine. So goddamn, Gavin was highly important, and he also created something else, an Ethereum client of his own, originally called Ethcore, now it's called Parity, which was written in Rust, and it claims to be the fastest and lightest Ethereum client out there. And then going to consensus developer tools, we can see what is promoted as clients for Ethereum still to this day. Geth from Wilkie, Parity from Gavin Wood, and Hyperledger Basu. Now you may be asking yourself, what does any of this have to do with Energy Web? Well, we will get to that in a second. In 2016, Gavin Wood, he left Ethereum and he focused on Parity, not only creating the technologies for Ethereum, but also Bitcoin and Zcash, and focusing on an interoperability protocol he termed Polkadot. Now here's where things get really interesting. Parity has been working on something called Parity Substrate, which was officially released to the public just 6 months ago, in November of 2019. And at the end of the release article, they say this: Substrate is a project born from Polkadot, a larger vision of the world with many interoperable blockchains. Substrate powers the blockchains that will connect to this public network, in addition to most of the chains that will connect to this network. When Polkadot is launched, you can feel secure that the technology that backs your blockchain is the same technology that powers the multiple other production level blockchains. So 2019, the public release, but Substrate has been in the works for some time. May 30th of 2018, Gavin Wood presented at Event Horizon, and the speech was titled The Energy Blockchain. Let's listen in to what he said.
Interoperability, so obviously the team is working quite heavily on Polkadot. Polkadot's a big interoperability play, and interoperability in general with all of these sort of different blockchains all sort of doing their own thing is increasingly an important concern, and of course efficiency in general. So if we look to what we've already done, I work with EWF. We've got the sort of EWF chain 1.0 based upon our Ethereum client, where we've switched the consensus mechanism from proof of work to a what we call authority round, or Aura POA. It's got smart contract execution, just like Ethereum, but unlike Ethereum, it has the ability to execute WebAssembly smart contracts. And WebAssembly is one of these sort of forward-looking technologies supported by some of the heavyweights in the sort of global IT infrastructure, like Google and Mozilla and whatnot. It's also got permissioning introduced, so it's not a permissionless blockchain like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's actually got the ability to specify which accounts can do which things. And on top of that, it's also got encrypted transactions and smart contract state. So you can actually kind of have private sort of transaction sets that only a bunch of authorities or a bunch of participants understand what's going on. Okay, so that's the first one, and those are fairly important sort of initial features to have. But for sort of the future, for really delivering on a lot of the goals of the EWF, there needs to be sort of additional groundwork laying.
So my friends, they have been working closely with a heavyweight and building this for some time. I wonder how long they have been doing this. Well, let's go back all the way to 2014, even before Ethereum was launched and the ICO was out. The original creation of Energy Web, with Gavin Wood at the first workshop.
Welcome everybody to the first workshop in Serbia. What we are trying to do here this weekend is to develop a framework for this energy coin project, to brainstorm and to work through some of the big topics and challenges. We have experts in hardware, software, blockchain technology, energy policy, smart grid metering systems and currency designs. Just to quickly introduce some of the members here, Gavin Wood is one of the founders of the Ethereum, which is considered as a Bitcoin 2.0.
Now, sitting right there at the very end, right behind the poster board and under Gavin's hand, is someone we need to focus on, as it's the people behind the project. That is Edward Hesse, the co-founder and CEO of Grid Singularity, which from their website details and most of us already know, they created the D3A Energy Exchange and are the co-founders of the Energy Web Foundation, chain, and of course the token. So this project isn't something new, it's not something small, it's part of a bigger picture. What could that be? Well, let's just continue with Gavin Wood's 2018 talk about the energy blockchain.
for sort of the future, for really delivering on a lot of the goals of the EWF, there needs to be sort of additional groundwork laying. And this is where Substrate comes in. So Substrate is our, if you like, technology stack on which we will build this, these new sets of technologies.
So EWF and Substrate, they are not disconnected one bit. Let's hear more, Gav.
So the rough sort of sketch of how Substrate looks and how it fits into the world is this. So it sort of sits in the middle between the underlying technologies, libp2p, Rust, WASM, our WebAssembly interpreter, and potentially eventually WebAssembly compilers. And then on top of it are built the actual blockchains. So in this case, Polkadot Relay Chain, EWF Chain 2.0, and who knows what else. It's designed in order to be very easy to use, very developable.
He explains that eventually the blockchains, like Energy Web Chain, will sit on top of Substrate, and he mentions 2.0. I wonder what Energy Web 1.0 was like. Well, Gav tells us more.
Obviously, the first one is just to replicate something similar to EWF Chain 1. So WASM smart contracts, permissioning, encrypted state. And with this, we'd roughly expect, let's say, 1,000 transactions a second pre-Polkadot. And Polkadot, by the way, is the sort of scalability argument for Polkadot is that we can replicate these chains a bunch of times, and they can sort of do asynchronous chatter between each other in a trust-free manner, which means you can basically split your applications amongst as many of these sort of EWF chain doppelgangers as you want.
And then Ed Hesse of Grid Singularity sits down with Gav and chats about it. EWF 1.0. Let's hear now.
Right now, this is a test network, Tobalaba, yeah? And it's meant for experimentation. And we enabled automatic updates simply because we're pushing a lot of features outside. Yeah? Everything that the team is developing, Gavin and Christoph and others, we're just pushing out. It's simply to enable faster development, a test network. Now, the idea on the governance side is, as it looks right now, because as I said, we have now a year for experimentation on the governance side, and it's very difficult to experiment as well, actually, without really having real values like money inside with test tokens. So we'll see how we need, if we can use the bridge to bring some real kind of incentives, tangible thing inside to trigger the governance. But
so back in 2018, it was being tested as a test network, Tubala, which is still hailed as a solid developer tool for Ethereum. Going to this consensus blog post, a definitive list of Ethereum developer tools. Under Ethereum clients, they list EWF Parity, which is Energy Web Foundation client for the Tubala test network. But test no more, they did launch from the test network to the main chain in June of 2019. And dApps, they have been being created on the chain. But who is making them? Who is creating the energy products of tomorrow? Well, going to this document from the Cleantech Forum 2018, we can see Energy Web's private round investors. Elia, Engie, Sempra Energy, Shell, Stat Oil, Stedin, TEPCO, TWL, SP Group, and Centrica. I wonder if any of these private round investors from back then are building on chain. Well, in September of 2019, it was announced Teo, the Energy Origin, would be the first dApp to migrate onto the Energy Web chain. And let me tell you, it's pretty significant what this is. Why? So Engie is one of the 10 major energy companies in the private round. Engie is a French multinational electric utility company that employs a ton of people throughout the country and beyond. And guess what? The Energy Origin is backed by Engie, as seen here in an early this year news release on their website. They explain what is going on. The technology being used by Engie, a giant utility with 170k employees in 70 countries, comes from French startup Ledger. That company's main business is creating secure storage for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but has recently expanded into security for internet-connected devices through a new unit called Ledger Origin. Yeah, that ledger, you guys, the hardware wallet people, and they are now creating secure IoT devices, Ledger Origin. Let's just continue with the news release. The Teo-NG partnership was Ledger Origin's first step into the new field, with development beginning in 2017. Teo and Ledger are installing tamper-resistant tracking devices on NG's renewable energy sources, including windmills, so data about their energy production can be recorded to a blockchain. Yup, to Energy Web Chain. As if you dig into that press release further, it says just that. Data is also encrypted, where it's gathered before being transmitted for storage, preventing it from being altered by anyone who intercepts it. That energy data is then transmitted and recorded on the Energy Web Chain, with a picture of one of the devices in the wild. So, do you not get that all the energy devices in France are being equipped with IoT devices created by Ledger, which connects right back to the Energy Web Chain? And this dAPP, it's only the beginning. Cheers, I'll see you next time.